In today's video, I'm going to show you 5 ways to blend oil pastels. I'll go through the pros and cons of each technique to help you find the ones that fit you best to improve your oil pastel paintings and enjoy the process even more. Hi, I'm Françoise, and on my channel, I offer tips and tutorials to paint realistically with watercolor, oil pastels, gouache, and more. The most common problem I hear other artists are having with oil pastels is to make them blend together and look smooth. And I'm often asked how I get my paintings to look so smooth. And there can be several reasons why it seems hard to blend oil pastels. Not all brands are comparable in terms of how well oil pastels blend. And sometimes if the oil pastels have become a bit dry, it can be difficult to work with them. I'm using Art Philosophy oil pastels today. I've placed a link for all my supplies in the description for you to refer to if you need it. The first way to blend oil pastels is to smudge them with a paper towel. The pros for this technique is it's awesome to cover a large surface like a background, and it will really help you create gorgeous backgrounds that look super smooth. It's also pretty fast to do. When I use this technique, I find the best way to go about it is to rub the pastels into the tooth of the paper with circular motions. The cons for this technique is it can be a little hard on the hands, so if you have pain in your joints, for instance, I wouldn't recommend it, although it doesn't have to take more than a few minutes if the sheet you're using is no larger than a 6 by 8 inches size, for instance. You also have to be aware that you'll need to apply enough oil pastels so all the tooth of the paper gets covered, and if there are specks of paper showing still after smoothing it out, you'll need to add more oil pastel. If what you're looking for is being precise, this technique isn't the best. You can see here how the edges of my circle don't look that neat. This technique is best used for backgrounds, as I said before. And another cons I can think of is it will have you use quite a few paper towels depending on how much you blend and how many colors, since we don't want to spoil a color with another. But overall, I find it's the fastest and most efficient way to blend oil pastels on a large surface. I use it a lot and I'm loving the results I'm getting. The second way to blend oil pastels is to use a blending stump. If your goal is to achieve realism, I can only encourage you to try this out. The pros for this technique is you'll be able to get into small corners or to outline the edge of your main subject precisely after painting a background without it looking messy. You'll also be able to paint small elements in a painting. In this one, for instance, I used a blending stump to smooth out and shape the bird's eye. It's also a good alternative to a paper towel, as it isn't as hard on the hands. For the cons, however, I'd say this technique is not a fast one, especially if you were to use it for large areas, because the tip of the blending stump is pretty small. So I would keep it to the small areas in the painting. What I do is smooth the background first with my paper towel, then contour the subject with the blending stump, and then refine the subject with the blending stump. Another cons to consider is blending stumps will get dirty, so to be able to reuse them again and again, you will need to make sure and wipe off the tips really good to clean them up when you change colors. If you paint a lot with oil pastels, like several times a week, it's possible you need to change your blending stumps frequently. If not, a set of blending stumps can go a long way. The third way to blend oil pastels is with a Q-tip. This technique is very similar to using blending stumps. I like about it, for the pros, that anyone can easily find Q-tips and use them to get a painting to look more precise and realistic. So this would be a good alternative to blending stumps. However, for the cons, I think it is still not precise enough, and you can see this again clearly from how the edges of my circle are looking. Q-tips would also be hard to clean without removing most of the cotton that's on it, so there will be more waste. So again, Q-tips are a great alternative, but they have limitations. The fourth way to blend oil pastels is to use your finger. Yes, it can be as easy as that. The pros for this technique is it's cheap, easy, and it works well. And I would encourage you to try if you've never tried oil pastel and you just want to run quick tests of how they blend, how they mix, etc. There are a few cons, however, and that's why I don't use this technique, is that it can be very tedious to use your finger all over a full painting, and it's not very precise either. It's hard to get a good amount of detail with just a finger. Then it's messy. The messiness is one of the most frequent fear I hear from people who are tempted by oil pastels. Messiness, in my opinion, only occurs with using your finger as a blending tool, and we've seen there are other ways to blend. Another thing I've noticed about this is the grease on your fingers will leave marks that are visible depending on the angle the painting is observed from. For me, the previous ways to blend are cleaner, the results look smoother, and they're consistent in every part of a painting. The fifth way to blend oil pastels is to use baby oil. This one was very new to me and I found it interesting to use it, although I'll be honest, I didn't see a difference in how my oil pastels were blending. I imagined it was going to be even easier, but nothing happened. I think this is because my oil pastels are already creamy, they don't need more oil. But if your own oil pastels are old or have dried up, I'm confident baby oil will help, so that is a huge pros of using baby oil and something to try if you need to. Please give me some feedback about this in the comments. A con says you don't want to use too much and make your painting very greasy, so it should be used with care. I just added a tiny bit here to try. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a lot. If so, please like, comment, and share this video so others get to see it come up on their YouTube suggestions as well. If you're not yet subscribed, you may consider doing so and turn on notifications to stay up to date with all of my upcoming oil pastels and watercolor videos. Thank you so much for watching this video and see you in the next one.